Welcome to Point Blank, the podcast where teenagers talk real life, real faith, and real awkwardness, like cringe level real. We're the youth of Stony Point, and we're not here to sugarcoat anything. From school stress to spiritual struggles, from social media to doubting God, we're taking aim at all of it, point blank. Our motto? Don't let anyone look down on you because you're young. That's 1 Timothy 4:12, and yes, we did look that up ourselves. So buckle up, grab a snack, and remember, this podcast might not solve all your problems, but at least you won't be the only one trying to figure it all out. Let's go. Hey y'all, and welcome back to the Point Blank Podcast. It's Ty. Thankful that you're joining us again. Got another special episode for you today. Think that you're really going to benefit from it, mainly because everybody has, well, not everybody has social media. We actually have one guest today that doesn't have social media, but most everybody has social media. And so we're going to spend some time talking about social media today, the positive effects of it, the negative effects of it. We're going to call this episode Swipe Right or Wrong. Swipe right or wrong. The impact of social media. I have two guests with me today. Have Macy and Piper with me. Both of them are members of our youth group here at Stony Point. Thankful for both of them and just the example that they set. They are two people that I know a lot of our younger kids look up to, and I'm glad to have them here. I'm going to give them a second to introduce themselves, tell you a little bit about them, and then I'll introduce the episode and we'll jump right in. Macy, you want to tell us a little bit about yourself?
Hey, my name's Macy, and I'm going to be a junior at Morris Hill, and I play volleyball.
Piper?
My name's Piper, and I'm going to be in 10th grade at Morris Hill, and I play volleyball too.
All right, so Piper is the one who doesn't have social media. You'll find that out as we talk. She was supposed to tell you that, but I guess she forgot. But that's okay, right? That's all right. We're new to this podcasting thing. We're not professionals at this. We're just coming to you point blank. We're just being honest and real, and we want you to be encouraged by our faith. All right, so social media, swipe right or wrong. That's what we're calling it. And just the truth of the matter is social media is great, and social media can be bad too. It can make us laugh. It can make us learn. It helps us stay connected to people that we don't see all the time, but it can also leave us stressed and make us feel like we have to compare our lives to other people. And in some ways, even though we have hundreds of followers and we follow hundreds of people, we can feel like we're alone. So we're going to talk about that, how it affects our faith and our friendships and even our identity, how we see ourselves. And so I thought it would be good for us to have two different vantage points, right? We've got Macy, who is practically an influencer, and you have Piper, who, have you ever scrolled social media before? No, so we have both ends of the spectrum covered here. And I think this is going to be a really valuable discussion just because of how many of our teens and even our adults that might be listening, how many of us have social media and can fall prey to some of these same things and how it might affect us. And so what we're going to do, I guess, at the beginning, before we maybe discuss some more practical aspects of this idea, is just sort of open up the floor and ask from two different vantage points a couple of questions. So the first question that Macy and Piper and I have discussed and would like to discuss with you is, how do you think social media shapes self-image, habits, and spiritual health? From two perspectives, you have someone who doesn't have social media, someone who does. How do you think social media shapes your identity, shapes your self-image, the way that you view yourself, or just people in general? How do you feel that social media shapes your self-image?
For me, I struggle a lot with comparison, and just scrolling on any social media platform, I'll just see all these other women and girls that I want to look like or be like because they put out a image of themselves that's the world calls perfect, but nobody's truly perfect, and we only see the good side of them and not all the bad sides. And for my spiritual health, I feel like it declines it, taking away time from my Bible and things that keep me connected to God.
Yeah, I think that's really, really good. I mean, I was thinking when you mention the word comparison, thinking about yourself as opposed to what you see in other people, that's a big one for me too. I don't know if it's pretty girls, but I do compare myself to other people, right? Maybe it's like a dad who has it looks like his family's just all together, everything's perfect in his life, and I'm like, man, I need to be a better dad. And it's not that I feel like I've been a bad one, but I just look at someone else who looks like they're better than me all the time, and I feel like I have to be that person. Two verses that came to my mind when I thought about comparison. I thought about Psalm 139 and verse 14, where David says, I will praise the Lord because I'm fearfully and wonderfully made. It's like a good reminder to us that I don't have to constantly compare myself to other people. And by the way, even Paul mentioned that in 2 Corinthians 10 and verse 12, where he said, it is unwise to compare yourself to other people, to look at them and say, that's the standard by which I measure my life. It's unwise. And that's what Macy mentioned. Just this idea of comparison contributes to these identity issues. Why don't I look like that? Why don't I have a life like that? And so that's a good thought. How do you think social media shapes self-image? Well, it makes us compare ourselves to other people. Piper, you have anything about that from the other side of the spectrum?
Right. Like you said earlier, I don't have social media and I've never had it before, but I definitely see, like, in my friends and stuff, all of them compare themselves to other people. And, like, when you just take a minute and you really realize, like, God made every single one of us, like, He took time on every single human being. Like, you might think there's something wrong with you, but, like, God made you that way. And when you really, like, think about that and realize that, it not only affects how you view yourself, but, like, other people, too.
Yeah, I think it's interesting that you notice that in your friends. Like, just something that you have this perception of someone who maybe constantly scrolls Instagram or constantly scrolls Facebook, and they make these comparisons, and then how much of an impact it has on them, that it becomes visible to you, that you're able to take notice of that. I guess it says something about your willingness to see that in your friends, which is admirable, but also the fact that whether we know it or not, scrolling Instagram or Facebook and comparing ourselves to other people see that. They notice that about us. And so that's a really good point. Piper, let me ask you a question, I guess, from the not having social media side, since these are, things that are interesting to me, because I guess I remember when I first got social media, I got a MySpace. Y'all probably don't know what MySpace is. It was like it was like a different version of Facebook, I guess, and you could customize your profile a little bit better. Like when people clicked on your profile, it'd have a song. You could put any song you wanted to. You could change the background, stuff like that. But anyway, not that anybody that's listening, especially teenagers, should do this, but I did it. My older cousin helped me get a profile without permission from my parents. So anyway, yeah, it was bad. Shouldn't have done that. Hindsight, should have never done it. So don't do that if you're listening. But anyway, I remember first having social media and scrolling it, and it taking all of my time. So I guess what I'm saying is, for the longest that I can remember, I've always had a social media, whether my parents let me or not. But not having social media, coming from Piper's perspective, how do you think that has affected your faith, positively or negatively, by not having social media, especially in a world that is really digital, and all the connections seem to be on Instagram or social media?
Yeah.
How's that affected your faith, positively or negatively?
Well, like how you said, like, you snuck social media. Like, I remember last year a lot. I had several friends be like, "Oh, we'll just get it without her knowing. Like, she won't find out." Like, that's what I did and stuff. And it's kind of like giving me the option to, like, every single day I decide, like, do I sneak social media or do I do what my parents tell me to? And obviously, like, I've chosen to do what my parents tell me to, because I know she'll probably find out anyway. But, like, also I know it's wrong. And, like, I know in James 1:3 it says, the testing of your faith produces steadfastness. So while it's not easy to do what my parents tell me to and what I know is right, it makes me better and helps me build a stronger faith.
Yeah, sure. Like I said at the beginning, it's not a good thing to go behind your parents' back and download any social media or do anything, for that matter, that your parents have asked you not to do. So don't think that I was being an advocate of that. I regret it deeply. But I do know this, that, our parents, and especially, I guess we could say anything, coaches, teachers, that they want the best for us. And so sometimes when they make rules and they make these guidelines. It's not to punish us or to make us feel like they're trying to rob our joy. They really do care about us, and they want us to do the right thing. And I think that that's exactly what's happened in Piper's life. While Piper may not agree with her parents see something and they want to do their best to guide her toward towards strong faith. And I think that she's admitted that while it is difficult to not have that, it's also helped her to stay true to herself and to do what's right. So that's really good. That's really good thoughts. I was thinking, I guess, about social media, and maybe everything, the narrative about social media in our world is that it's always negative. Even just, I don't know, scroll through Facebook for just a few minutes, and it's always like somebody's fighting about something. They make a post and they're arguing about anything. And so I guess it is maybe good for us to pause for a second and say, well, there are some positive effects of social media. Piper just mentioned some positive effects of not having it. But for us who do have it, and I think that's a lot of people, what are some positive effects of having social media? And a couple of that I thought about, and maybe they can throw in some, or Macy can, since Piper doesn't have social media. That's the running joke in the youth group, so it's not like Piper's very sensitive about this, so we can joke about it. But, one of the things that we have before us is a community, right? That's one thing about social media that we like, is that we have a community of people that we can follow and that we can stay connected to people that are long distances away. If it's, something faith-based, where a group we can join, or even if it's a sports group, or maybe, like I'm in groups for bow hunting. It's like I can get in and all that's in there are just people that bow hunt. Or there are certain Bible groups, if you want to. There's all these communities that you can connect with that give you opportunities to engage other people. That's a positive thing to me. Creativity and self-expression, that's a big positive to me. Like TikTok, for instance. You scroll through TikTok, and during COVID, when everyone was on TikTok, well, you had all of these singers that were being discovered because they were expressing themselves in a positive way, and folks found out about them. So that's good, especially for us as Christians, because we share our faith and we share our testimonies and we share our experiences, and we've been given a platform to do that. And then learning, man, we can learn so much on social media. You can learn some really bad stuff on social media. I heard one time a man say that Facebook has never caused the blind to see or the lame to walk, but it has caused the dumb to speak. And that's true. People say things all the time that may not be positive, but it really is a great avenue for us to learn. I've seen sermon clips and podcast links like our podcast on Facebook. There's all kinds of articles that people write, news things that they encourage us. They help us learn. Not everything online that is Christian or theological is sound, so I would encourage you to have a discerning mind when you approach it. But just know that there are some positive things about social media, so I don't want this discussion to be centered around all things negative. But now I guess we transition into a more practical side, right? Macy has been working hard on some tips for us to scroll with wisdom and boundaries, because it's like we know there are negative things, anxiety and fear of missing out, just this constant state of negativity if all you see are negative posts. Like was already mentioned, the idea of comparison, looking at other people's lives. And by the way, social media is not really an accurate reflection of people's lives, is it? I mean, you see people always post about how good things are, but then a lot of those same people that post about how great things are, like all these positive images of their family, then what's going on at home may not be accurately reflected on their social media. So that's something for us to consider too, and maybe helps us to not compare so much, because we don't really ever know what's going on behind the scenes. But anyway, those negative things. So in order to avoid those negative things, in order to avoid anxiety or fear of missing out or thinking negatively all the time or comparing ourselves to other people, what are some ways that you feel like we could use social media in a God-honoring way? As a Christian, as a teen, how can we use social media in a God-honoring way? Some things that we can do that might help us to have boundaries or use wisdom when we approach social media, whether it's TikTok or Instagram or Facebook, whatever. What are some things that come to your mind?
Okay, first off, I want to say that, as Tom mentioned, social media is not always a bad thing, but it can become bad when all you're doing is being on it 24/7 and getting on it when you should be spending time with your family or friends. So first off, we need to set time aside to spend time with your family and friends, and spend time in the Word too. Like in the morning, I struggle with getting right on my phone as soon as I wake up, but I need to set my phone aside for 5 minutes so I can open up my Bible and just spend some time with God in the morning, and even before bed too. That would be good.
Yeah, that's really good. That was one of the first ones I had on my list, was setting boundaries, like whether that boundary was a time limit. One of the most eye-opening things for me was the feature on your iPhone every Sunday, and it's ironic that it comes on Sunday to my phone, the screen time, and like it's funny because usually I get it around church time, and then I look down and I see like where I've spent so much time that week, and it's almost ironic because I'm at church usually when I get it, and it just makes me think like, how can I do better about limiting my time? If it is, the first 30 minutes of my day are going to be phone free. Going to be phone free. I'm going to make sure that I get up and I take care of my body and I eat a good breakfast, and things that prepare me to have a good day without my phone. How could I set boundaries and do that? That's a really good point. The second one for me that I thought of that was kind of falling right along with what Macy said is, how on you can really do this on anything. Social media is all about algorithms, and algorithms work by it's a testing phase kind of. So like they'll put something in front of you, and based on how long you look at whatever they put in front of you, then they think, well, if you looked at it for more than 8 seconds, well then you must be interested in it. So they're going to start putting more and more and more in front of you, to the point where now that's all you see. And it happens on TikTok and Instagram. If you even search something on Facebook, or on Google rather, the algorithm on Facebook might take that and put an ad in front of you on Facebook because of your interest in those subjects. And so maybe what I could do to have a wise approach to social media is reset my algorithm. Spend time looking at things that make me better and stronger, and if those things that aren't going to do that, then I quickly pass by those things so that I can reset my algorithm. Or maybe we could say filter your follows. Like when you scroll across an account on Instagram and you look at it and say, is this person right here, every time I look at this influencer's post, is it making me feel better about myself? Is it making me feel worse about myself? And if it's worse about myself, then unfollow. If it's somebody who's always negative, unfollow. Get rid of those things that might tear you down. What other ways maybe you think, just practically? Anything else comes to your mind about how you could use social media in a positive way, or at least in a God-honoring way? That you could just put yourself out there as a Christian and honor God by your social media.
You can post things about God and get other people to see that you want to be more like God, and show others that don't even know God. Yeah,
and I mean, it's really like, well, it's true. I guess I could say this confidently, that there's probably more people that are not going to follow Jesus because of something they saw or read on someone's social media than people who will follow Jesus because of that. And it's not that Christians don't post enough about God or Christ or church, but usually what we do post about it is an argument, or people, constantly arguing over the. So it's like more people run away from Jesus than they do come. So maybe we could do a better job of using our social media platforms to be a light and to encourage and to lift people up rather than tearing people down. Really good thoughts. I guess Macy and Piper have given us a lot to think about. I know they've given me a lot to think about, and how I could clean up my own social media, or maybe I could just leave social media altogether and work on myself. That would be a really good goal for us to achieve. But here's what we want to leave you with. Positive things from social media. You have connection, you have groups, you have these communities that you can be involved with. You have a platform to broadcast things that are godly and things that are honorable. But the downside is there's this temptation to compare yourself, to constantly be involved in negativity. The way you can avoid it, take Macy and Piper's advice. Set boundaries, filter who you follow, reset the algorithm, and most importantly, just remember, you have an opportunity to be a light and to show other people what Jesus looked like on your social media. And I think it's really about time that we do a better job of that. Thanks for joining us on the Point Blank podcast. Appreciate you listening, and hope to see you again next time.